to this live session of Transitioning Humanitarians. And I hope you can hear me. I feel like my phone is on and everything. Yes, exactly. So today Vicky cannot make it, so that's my apologies. And she will join us next week with a guest speaker together. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, I would be talking to you about decision making in transitioning. So I know that this is probably the number one topic that many humanitarians think about, talk about, and also maybe struggle. So I will be talking about what are the best ways you can make decisions and how best to do that. And in the meantime, I would love to invite you to my webinar that is happening next Wednesday. You probably have seen uh, the post on it, and if not, please do come because we'll be talking about how to transition successfully and answering all of your questions around transitioning, and including the topic of decision making in case that's what you're struggling with. So please do come. I will be also put the link for you to sign up after this live streaming. So let's dive into talking about decision making. So the biggest problem that I see people make when they make decisions is that we make decisions out of scarcity or fear, right? So we make decisions out of fear. So what usually happens in that scenario is that we start then searching for all the answers outside as to how to make the decision. Like we start searching for how other humanitarians doing, whether they're transitioning, if they're transitioning, how their experiences, whether it works or not, whether this is possible or not, right? So we start searching for those things. Another way that we tend to do that out of fear and scarcity is we tend to create lots of pros and cons. We keep thinking about it, spinning about it. We also keep wondering whether maybe we should stay and just deal with it, or maybe we should just go to a next assignment and avoid those people because of which or because of whom we're probably wanting to transition. So that's why we tend to do a lot of those. And then basically, we have like always the feeling of something is missing, something is not right, something is not there. Or another big one is we don't really have the money, or we don't really have time, or it's not the right time. So these are the things that we start doing it after feeling that scarcity, after feeling that fear. And therefore, decision making becomes so difficult. Therefore, decision making becomes like something that we fear of not like doing the wrong thing, doing the mistake. And that's why what happens then is we stay in the indecision. And the way indecision looks like is we are like not really there and we're not really here either, meaning that we're not really moving forward as to getting prepared for transitioning and how we will do, what we'll do, how that will look like. We don't really go forward in that direction, but we also don't really stay where we are, meaning we're not really present at what we're doing. We are doing it barely because we have to, but we don't really full-heartedly doing it because we are still in the spinning mode of what to do next and what why this is or what that is, right? So that's why we are not really allowing ourselves to be fully present and fully going in our current job in the humanitarian space that we're in, for instance, or we don't go forward to doing all the things to get ready for our transitioning. So that's the indecision. What's interesting that you need to notice is that whenever we're in decision, however, our brains interpret that meaning, well, it's safe, right? So indecision sounds like nothing has gone wrong. We're just safe. We're not really making a decision. Maybe we'll do one day. So that's why we will just stay in that place. Even though what indecision does that many of us may not be aware of it is that it's not really moving us in any direction, right? It's making us stuck and stay wherever we are. And that in the long run cannot really have a positive outcome for ourselves because we haven't really invested full-heartedly in being where we are and progressing in that journey, or we haven't really decided to transition and go somewhere else if we wanted to. So whenever we're staying in that indecision, what often happens is that we eventually develop the apathy. We don't really want to be working. We just barely keep doing the work. We just keep thinking like all we need to do is survive. All we need to do is like get by, and these are the manifestations of indecision. So in all of that, the mistakes that we often make, as you can see, is that we believe that indecision is a solution, right? Oftentimes, like if we are not making a decision to move forward, and if we're not making a decision to stay fully where we are just safe. But what we're actually doing is we are not deciding, we're in indecision, and we're just floating. We're just going in the status quo. We're just going in the comfort of not having to experience strong emotions in either direction. Now, when we're making the decision, what actually makes the decision very hard is because we assume the worst in either direction. Right? So the reason why it's hard is because we believe that if we make a decision to transition, it will be hard, it will not work out, it will be this, it will be that, like thinking of the worst case scenarios. And therefore, we don't want to make a mistake, so to say. We don't want to make a failure, so we stay where we are. So, in other words, another way of looking at it is like we tend to start making a plan to make it like fail proof, but in real life, that doesn't happen that way. We can never make a fail proof plan, right? Because of the ability that we have that we can't foresee the future, obviously. So that's why no matter how much we plan, how much we think about everything, there will always be something else going on. So that's why the problem that I find with the decision making out of scarcity or out of fear is exactly that, is that we will be always because it's coming from that fear, it will always constrain us to focus on what could go wrong, what could go not the way we want to, and therefore it actually stops us from making decision because the fear has that protective power, right? Fear has the power to say we're not doing it, and we will always find so many excuses that sound very valid as to why we shouldn't be doing it, even though that's probably where we're wanting to go. So that's why if you're experiencing that, the other alternative that I want to present here is the decision making out of freedom. Now, notice that whenever I'm saying that you can make a decision out of freedom, I'm not saying that you won't be experiencing fear, but it will be a different type of fear. It will be the fear that is like a bit like clinging on when you go to see a new place or when you go to take up a new assignment. You have this a bit fear, but you also have lots of excitement, lots of looking forward to how you're going to be there and what you're going to do, right? So it will be that fear of the unknown, really, which is very different than the fear of the existential of everything falling apart. Because the fear of existentially everything falling apart makes us spin and not really do anything or freeze oftentimes, while the fear of unknown is the fear that keeps us moving, even though it's like a bit like be careful kind of a signal, right? So that's why the decision making that I'm proposing that you should absolutely consider applying is the decision out of freedom. Now, the difference between decision out of freedom and decision out of fear is that in the fear, we are likely to focus on fixing all the things around us. right? Like, how can we make sure that we don't fail here? How can we make sure we don't fail here? How can we make sure we don't fail here? Or how can we make sure that we get the job? And like focus on the outwards, while the decision making out of freedom is when we focus on how can we trust ourselves to solve all of those issues. How can we rely on all of our resources that we have within us? How can we rely on our abilities within us? How can we trust ourselves to be making those decisions and knowing that we will make it work no matter what? Right? So, what's amazing about this decision making where we're doing it out of freedom is that we even have that moment where we're like, we could stay and do the work, it's not a problem, but we could also pursue doing the thing that we're really wanting because that's what we want to do. Do you see what I'm saying? So you will have that freedom within that says, no matter what life throws me, I know how to handle. No matter what life throws me, I know what to do. No matter what the other job will be, I know that I will replicate my salary, or no matter what mistakes or failures I will encounter, I will know what to do. That's when the decision is being made out of freedom. Now, when I say this, you may have this like, oh, Asel, but I'm not really there. I don't really have the confidence. I don't really have all the trust to be there and to be making that decision. So how do I do that? And that's a great question. And one of the strategies that I would love to share for you to consider is if you're not in the burnout situation, because burnout, I think, is so heavy for people to be really considering other options. But if you're not in the burnout situation, I would really consider for you to think of how could you transition in your mindset while you are in your current place where you are. In other words, for instance, I would suggest that you take a decision to stay for now. It's like a temporary decision, let's say. You decide to stay now and start living the life that you're wanting within the confines of where you are now. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't leave or you shouldn't consider leaving if that's really what you're wanting. But in order for you to develop that confidence, that trust, that freedom that I'm talking about, in order to do that, let's start solving some of the issues that you're encountering now in your current space where you are. Right? So let's say that you wanted to leave, excuse me, because of your boss, or you wanted to leave because of the system, or you wanted to leave because of many other challenges that your work is offering, and you feel like you can't really handle it, and you feel like you, excuse me, are overwhelmed and you don't really know what to do and all of these things. So if that's the case, how could you be that person who knows how to solve those problems now? Who knows how to solve these problems in the way that is right for you, in the way that you are satisfied with, in the way that makes sense to you, right? So, how could you train, in other words, then develop those skills of acting and solving for all of those issues now to develop the confidence, to develop that freedom that says, well, if I can solve these issues, these challenges, I can solve anything, right? Because if we don't do that, if we don't solve those issues now in the current place where we are and then leave to something else, we are somehow also leaving it avoiding those challenges, right? Because we think that those challenges only exist in that environment, and if we go somewhere, it won't be. But that's really not true in so many ways. I mean, there might be certain level of like dangers not there. I absolutely admit, like war zones or conflicts settings that we're working, there might be not there, but many of the other challenges of interpersonal relationships, right? Many of the challenges of the systemic issues, those will be there in other settings as well, especially if we are going to get another employment somewhere else. So that's why, how can we use the most difficult settings that we're in currently, if we're perceiving it that way? How can we use that setting where we are um, building that muscle of being that strong person who can solve those things, who can solve all of those issues of not avoiding, but rather being that person who is capable of solving those things, so that you keep gathering more evidence as to how well you can actually solve for them and how well you can do that, so that you have that freedom, that confidence within you to go and explore transitioning and going somewhere else. Right? So this is what I'm talking about. So just to wrap up of what I'm saying is that whenever you are making a decision of whether to leave or not, and how to leave, and what are the things to do, so notice where that energy is coming from, or what that feeling is behind all of those decisions. If you're making a decision where it feels heavy, it feels difficult, it feels unpredictable, it feels like hard, and should you be even doing that decision, that means that it's all coming from that fear. And that fear is probably attached to some version of you assuming that you can't handle what's coming up in the future. Some version of assuming that you can't really handle what's happening in your current life, as well as you can't really handle if there is a problem in the future, right? So that fear is coming from there. And that fear is also coming from that belief, obviously, that says there is the right decision somewhere and you need to learn it going somewhere. But it's always the right decision that you make it right. For every one of us, there is a right decision that we think is right. There is no like universal right decision, right? So that's why I really encourage you to notice within you, listen more as to what your decision is coming from, what feeling is coming from, what feeling is fueling you make that decision. And whenever you notice it, that this is coming up and this is happening, what you can always do is as a reminder that, it's now time for me to start trusting myself. It's now time for me to believing in myself that I can actually solve for those issues that come up in the future, or solve for the issues that I'm currently having, so that I can be that person who is not afraid of those challenges in the future. Because when I was making that decision to leave the humanitarian world, one of the things that I really found fascinating for me is that I finally realized that I could be doing the job that I was doing back then, but that's not really what I want to be doing, and I want to do something else, and I'm not afraid to encounter all of those challenges that are coming up, and I'm like capable of solving for them. I had that deep level of trust with me that I can do that. And whenever I experienced that, I had that freedom to say, I could actually do anything I want in life while creating, uh, providing for my family and all of those things. And once I had that deep sense of belief in myself, in my abilities to be doing or creating things the way I want to, then like decision making whether to leave or not was not even an issue. It was not even something like I had to make like a very clear cut point, but rather, yes, this is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm going for now. This is how I'm going to do it now. Right? So that's why I really want you to be making decision out of this freedom to say, I could do that work, but that's not really feel like what I want to be doing in life, and I want to do something else. Amazing, go for it. Or you can just say, no, I could do this work, and I was mistakenly believing before that I need to leave in order to make myself happy, but I can make myself happy and live my life the way I want to while working on those things and while staying in the humanitarian field. Then it's amazing. You just stay and you live your life while doing that humanitarian work that you're wanting to do. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why knowing these tools, I think, helps you to allow yourself that you like explore within you that all of the resources, all of the abilities that you have currently are so powerful that you can solve the problems currently where you are and then leave, or solve them and then decide to stay. Or you just know that even if you've solved all of this, and even if there will be more challenges coming up in the future, you will still have you to rely on to solve for them in the future. Do you see? So whenever you are doing that out of freedom, out of that trust, you will always have this, yes, there will be these issues, there will be that issue, there will be this issue, the money issue, the obligation issue, the time issue, whatever the issue is, yes, there will be there, but I'm the one who can solve for them. You see, I'm the one who knows what to do and how to do it. And then you just keep going and doing it. Again, it doesn't mean that you will not experience fear. It will be the fear that is tolerable. It's a fear that is like, oh, I hope I will not fail, or I hope I will not do this. But you will keep going anyway because you trust yourself that in the end of the day, you are the one to rely on. You are yourself to rely on whenever you are solving those. Right? So that's why, my dears, I really, really want you to experience this freedom, that experience this trust, experience this belief in you to be making decision where decision making becomes like an obviously this is what we're doing, instead of, oh my god, god forbid that I make a mistake, oh my god, this is going to go wrong, this is going to be this is going to be that, and then trying to like stop all of those holes, as if instead trusting that you can handle all of those challenges, you can handle all of those issues that may come up, and you know how to do it. When if you don't know, you will figure out how to do it. Okay. I hope that this was helpful for you to understand and recognize where this decision making is coming from. And if it's coming from fear, you know how to recognize and what to do. And if you notice that you are at the level of freedom, amazing. I will be very happy for you. You let me know how that's going. And of course, if you'd like to get coaching on any of this, or you would like to come over to the webinar and ask your questions there, please feel free to do that. I'm so looking forward to this interaction with you in whichever way. And until then, stay safe, and I'll see you next Thursday. Thank you. Bye.